I really do appreciate that warm introduction from the Vice Provost and Dean. I'm never quite sure what anybody's going to include when they give an introduction, so I listen closely too to see what happens. I also want to thank my colleagues from the National Science Foundation, the organizers of this event, and Vanderbilt University for hosting such an important occasion. The range of institutions represented here, this range highlights the diversity of our country's intellectual brainpower in research and education. That's one of the reasons why it is so great to be with you. But the variety represented across the institutions bodes extremely well for the nation. We know that no region, no one group of institutions, and no special communities have a corner on the market of good ideas and smart people. We then need all of the talent that is represented in this nation. The President's Science Advisor, John Holdren, has said on more than one occasion, the world of science and engineering is fortunate to have a president who gets it. He's pointed out that President Obama recognizes the critical role that research and education in science and engineering, the critical role that these fields play in building our future in what we all know is an increasingly competitive environment. President Obama has stated it this way: the challenge, he says, for all of us is to out-educate, out-innovate, and out-compete the rest of the world. In order for NSF to help with that challenge, NSF has been converging on the theme, One NSF. Now, I want to elaborate a bit on that theme, for it promises to be the mark, the hallmark of the tenure for the current director. You heard earlier today that Dr. Subra Suresh is now the director of the National Science Foundation. He sends his apologies for not being able to be here, but were he here, I can guarantee you he would elaborate on the notion of One NSF. Now, this theme calls attention to the principles and practices that unify the foundation. That's one way in which this is One NSF. But the theme also indicates the connections, the connectedness across the levels, across the parts of the National Science Foundation. It emphasizes as well the links between the foundation and the larger community. I need not remind you that NSF does not operate independently. When the foundation was being created, there were questions. Should this be an organization with its own laboratories, for example? And the decision was no. It would operate in collaboration with the university, the college and university community. Thus, NSF has to rely on the scientists, the engineers, the educators, the people, you, who craft ideas, who review those ideas for their worthiness, and if the investments seem warranted, carry out those ideas. So this One NSF is also about the connections needed between the communities and the foundation. The One NSF, in the sense of a link to the communities, though, also indicates that the National Science Foundation is a public agency, meaning it has to be responsible to and responsive to the needs, the curiosity of our citizens. No one balks about that, but it means, too, we've got to be responsive We've got to listen to those who have the power of the purse. And often that's not quite as easy. Nonetheless, as a public body, we have that kind of responsibility. And thus, this is a part of what we know we have to incorporate when we think about one NSF. This means that realizing this vision of one NSF, it demands engagement far beyond our own organizational boundaries. In part, that's why it was not all that difficult for my colleagues to say, we will go to Nashville, because we know that it's that chance to interact that makes us a much richer, deeper organization, and one that can respond so much better to the demands that encircle us. That's why we're enthusiastic about being here, for it's not just what we've come to share, but it's also what we learn through the interactions. Now let me elaborate a bit more on these parts of the vision of one NSF. I've said that this notion suggests that there are unifying principles and practices. You know already that my colleagues represent different programmatic areas of the foundation. And because of the varying disciplinary emphases, we know that some in the audience will gravitate to the discussions having to do with the biological sciences. Others will attend the sessions organized by the Computer and Information Science and Engineering Directorate, and on across our different directorates. But what is going to be common across will be the unifying themes. No matter what part of the foundation one talks to, there is the acceptance of the principles of merit review. The fact that the ideas have to be the powerful ideas assessed by people from communities, and being concerned then that the practices are in fact in accord with the merit system quite generally. One of the things that has been of interest to me is I get the request for reconsiderations. And in a couple of cases, people have sent in requests, and the complaint had been nothing was very well specified in their proposals. What was the reaction from the proposers? It was, I'm not going to tell everybody what I want to do. Why should I do that? And as someone said earlier, get my ideas stolen. So there's such great ideas, you should just fund me. When I say there is one NSF, I can tell you we are unified. We don't even try to talk about using federal public monies for things that can never be judged about their merits. So it's that kind of shared vision, the shared commitment to supporting excellence, creativity, and awarding funds based on merit. That's one of the matters that unifies all of NSF. This is a commitment to merit that has been with the foundation since its founding 60 years ago. It has to be continually reinforced, of course, and it has to be reinforced in collaboration with our partners. Our partners, that's you. I'm very pleased then to be joined by the programmatic side, but also by the operational side of the National Science Foundation. For that, again, illustrates what we mean by one NSF. No matter how creative the ideas, no matter how powerful the merit of those ideas, if we don't have people, if we don't have units concerned with the making of the awards, with determining the legality of the making of the awards, with ensuring that we have policies and practices that are appropriate, we cannot serve you, we cannot serve the nation well. And thus, this one NSF means how we bring together the varying levels, operations within the organization. But it's also, as I suggested, no matter how intertwined are our own parts, we cannot propel the nation beyond its current activities to the unexplored territory that's been envisioned. We can't do this on our own. It has to be in collaboration with our communities. After all, as I've already indicated, it is through the collaborations, it's through the interactions, it's through what you do, to be perfectly honest. It's through all of this that we're able, we hope, to serve the nation's interest. Now, over these 2 days, my colleagues will share information on NSF's internal processes and dynamics. The sharing of that information aims to help us ensure that our processes engage all talent and that we can continue to identify and foster creative ideas. Yes, we are committed to the notion that talent must be fostered. Talent from all regions, from all groups, from every part of the country, and in fact the world, if we are in fact going to continue to make those advances so essential in the current period. But if we're going to do that, as I suggested, we've got to have ideas. We've got to have people giving us a sense of what else ought to be on the agenda and how well are we carrying out what we have in mind right now. So, even if you do not hear the question asked directly, we want to know, how are we doing? Are we still really showing that commitment, being true to the vision that Vannevar Bush established for the foundation some 60 years ago? That was a vision that said, science and engineering are endless frontiers. Are we continuing to think about those endless frontiers? We want your input on how attentive are we to the needs of the society at large and to the changes in the global context for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Is our dedication to diversity and inclusion, is that dedication clear and well aligned with the changes that we see all around us in our nation, in our regions, and in what is needed, again, for STEM advancement? Have we remained faithful to our principle of the integration of research and education? That's a core idea for the National Science Foundation. So again, the question is, how we're doing. Recall that it's no accident that most funding from NSF goes to educational institutions. This was a very purposeful choice made, a choice made not just to invest in current ideas, but to nurture the development of the people essential for the continuation and the continued development of ideas. Remaining faithful to the principle then of the integration of research and education, or any of the other underlying notions for the foundation. Remaining faithful does not mean, however, rigid adherence to past or outmoded activities. If you see those in our agenda, let us know. As partners, we are assuming that you're faithful enough partners that you want all of us to perform well. As our partners then, in the larger enterprise, you offer us opportunities to build on your experiences. Those could include, how well, what do you know about the integration of research and education that can be drawn on. How can such integration occur most effectively and be integrated to serve different fields, different places, and different problems? I suggested earlier, though, that what we need to do is not just limited to the community of scientists and engineers in higher education. No, it's a larger community that surrounds us. And so, we ask for your help as you give feedback about the kinds of experiences that you've encountered. Let me give you another example. It won't surprise you to know that periodically questions are raised about titles of projects. Now, sometimes those are misinterpretations, but at other times, even we, with great sympathy to the community, will ask, now why in the world would anyone propose a title? Is it just to be cute? These are public monies, remember, and cuteness does not always pay off. This is what I'm suggesting. Why not have that kind of consultation to make sure that the title, the plan, can be understood, can be grasped. Often, undergraduates are sometimes great people to be very skeptical about something. Let's try out some of those ideas there. Larger communities are sometimes the places that can offer us some ideas about how something is likely to sound and to listen very carefully to what we have in mind. For all of this, then, I'm suggesting we are your partners. We want, then, your help as we work together to advance the creativity, to make sure that we're faithful to principles, but not adhering to the things that are all too rigid. So I'm going to close my comments, but I close them with my hope that we all regard this conference as one for determining how, through concerted efforts in science and engineering, how we can address the conundrums and the opportunities of our times. These are indeed fascinating, challenging times, and I am more than convinced, seeing the faces in this room, having had a chance to talk to any number of you, I'm convinced that through the kind of cooperation, through a vision that says what we seek to do is not just for ourselves. I can't imagine people came to a conference like this just asking the question, how do I get some money? Oh no, you didn't do that. You came because the passion for the things to be undertaken because of their worthiness of what this could mean for the questions that we have. And those are questions at all kinds of levels. That's why we're here. That's why we often have to work together to have others understand what that kind of commitment and interest is. So I want to end my comments by thanking you for what you've done, thanking you for what you will be doing, and reminding you that we are partners in a venture that is concerned first and foremost with advancing knowledge, with advancing an understanding of all of those worlds around us, the worlds we create. And we do this on behalf of a larger national interest. With that, let me end by saying thank you.